HO Talk Show.
Yes. Back like we never left. I to the ism, H to the Izzo Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor. And I'm so excited right about now because we're going to do some pretty dang good edutainment right about now. We have none other back with us once again by popular demand, the hip hop professor, brother AD, the great AD Carson. Professor Carson, good afternoon to you.
Peace. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Yes, indeed, man. I appreciate you, being so willing to join these discussions because we appreciate your expertise, man. Oh man, but let's get to it. What do you think, Razor? Let's get to it. All right, 80. I think we already talked about. I'm an 80s baby. I'm a hip hop head. Born and raised by it. And so understand all the elements. I remember being a child and the uncles and the cousins had the Sugar Hill Gang record, and then you can just go through history through the rest of that, through every evolution of the genre, right? One of the things that is a pillar and that sticks out about this culture is that, and I'm gonna let you elaborate on it more. I'm gonna try to do it a little justice just to sort of set this up. And I know I kind of gloss over, but I think everybody knows of you, even if they've never met you. Professor AD Carson is at the UVA School of Music department, and he is a renowned professor when it comes to many things, including hip hop, right, and the culture and history thereof, right. So that being said, we see right now that the world is paying attention, for better or for worse, but there's a big beef in hip hop going on right now. And we currently sit on, the crux of it being between Kendrick Lamar and Drake.
Yeah.
Right. So what I wanted to do to preface it, and, there's many avenues that this conversation can take us, but as I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the element of battle rapping, right, and diss records at its core is actually opposite of what a lot of people are perceiving it to be. A lot of people see it as unnecessarily violent. They see it as real life physical threats. And I get how there's been things that have happened that would lead someone to have that opinion. And unfortunately, it bleeds into the streets out of the booth. But let's talk about the history of it, because to my recollection, one of the reasons B-Boys started and the reason that break battles and rap battles, DJ battles started is it was an element in New York to actually keep kids off the street, to keep the gangs from fighting. And so battling in a different means became an element of hip hop. But I want your take on that. Start wherever you want when you see diss records and battle rapping right now.
Happening in these streets.
Yeah, but I'm curious your take on the foundation of this part of the hip hop culture.
Yeah. So I appreciate the time and the space, dedicated to trying to provide some historical context. But I would probably go back way farther than the 1970s in New York. Are y'all familiar with Beowulf, the epic poem?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's the thing. If you read Beowulf, if you ever go back, the poet who writes the poem, they start out outside of a mead hall, like a bar, a tavern, and they're sitting around, and they kind of start like this, like a conversation where they're taunting one another. The taunts that they're engaging in, I believe, are described as flighting. Flyting or FLITING. Flighting is a verbal contest where a person is talking about their exploits in regard to battle and how they're revered by their peers. And this is aside from the actual fighting that they might do. Like, we also know that in Beowulf there was a battle. And this monster comes out of the woodwork. He comes and Beowulf snatches his arm off and beats him with it. And then all of the other stuff. He goes into the cave and he finds the sword that that Grendel's mom has, and then cuts her head off with it, and then brings the heads back out.
Well, that sounds violent.
But also,
I have a nephew named Beo. Go ahead.
Understand that Beowulf also is happening. Part of the reason that we have it, existing in the way that it does is because it's written in rhyme. And so I think
that
there's, like a case that might be made for this kind of verbal taunting, like the expectation that the thing that you are doing aside from fighting in order to play one's own heroic deeds up in relation to the other people who are around you. I think that has a really long history. So that's sort of European, like that. But then we also have like traditions that are probably more directly related to African American traditions, that come, that are established on the African continent, where folks are doing versions of what we probably like see most demonstrably explored through like Henry Louis Gates's The Signifying Monkey, like where he's talking about like sort of the roasting and the toasting. And these are like very similar kinds of contests where folks are like one-upping each other by like digging up whatever my ethical, my moral, my physical strengths are in opposition to everybody else who's around. And so we're playing these word games. And so in that light, then Henry Louis Gates says that, like I believe that, like I remember my grandpa at the turn of the century, like, in the 1900s, doing what people consider now to be rap. And so I think that you have this longer history in oral traditions, like both that are like African derived and otherwise, where folks are playing these games in language, where they are like boasting and playing with language in order to show themselves as the superior intellect.
I can see that.
And then I also like you also just have to understand that in relation to the thing that does like sort of move into like what we would probably call like physical violence, rather than saying that the language itself isn't violent or that the language doesn't call violent, doesn't call into being violence. I believe that it's absolutely possible to engage in violent language. Violent rhetoric means something and it does something. And so for people to say that it's not violent until somebody gets harmed, I think that that's just not a very astute take, because like if somebody's calling you a thug, they're calling you, like they're associating the music that you make with thuggery and crime and violence. If you say that I saw a thug running down the street, when somebody shoots that person you called a thug, I don't know that the violence only happens when that person gets hit with the bullet. I think that the language that precedes the act actually makes the act okay. And so we undoubtedly know that language can be violent and that it does violent work every day. I mean, in the same way that they're calling people who are protesting across the country violent protesters, or the fact that you have to modify protest by saying that it's peaceful. Means that there is something that is signified by saying protest in the first place. So we can't say that language is already setting the stage. In a lot of ways, language is already doing the violence, and then the act is just like, it's the thing that happens indeed that
materializes it.
Yes, that actually makes it a thing.
So thank you for that, man. That's
we
rich
didn't
history.
get to the 70s yet, though.
Oh yeah, we will. But as we enter that that age, I mean, this is why we got you here. but as we enter that age, right, of the 70s or whatnot, through history and like through that art, because that's what it is, has there been that you know of times where there's things that are off, like that are off the table, like things that are unmentionable? Because we see that sometimes too, to where people say, "Oh, well, those are fighting words," right? Well, it's like, so he shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, but I think that the fighting words thing, even and that's been litigated for a long time too, with regard to the so-called N-word. I would say, like your mama jokes have a particular place. Like I'm saying, like mama jokes have a place because like it's like at the same time we understand what a joke about somebody's mama means, and a lot of times it's not literal until we take it literally, and so it's not like you can't talk about my mama. It's who are you to talk about my mama?
Right.
And so it really depends. Like in the same way that like somebody just mentioning your mother, it hits differently depending on who you are and who they are. So like I think that what's understood about like the context for battles, the context for like this verbal dueling that's going on has everything to do with who's participating. And I think that really importantly for what we're talking about today, it has to do with who the audience is. It has to do with who we're having this conversation in front of. There's all kinds of stuff that I say to my brothers, like people who I share a mother with. It's way different if I'm having that conversation with them among our siblings in our family. And then when that conversation is happening on, like NBC in prime time. So like, it might be understood that we would go debate on NBC, but certain stuff is off the table because we family and we talk about family business when the cameras ain't here.
I can beat up my brother. You can't. You know what I mean?
It's exactly that. And so I think that part of what's happening here, like we're conflating multiple conversations. So I would also just say like 1952, Ralph Ellison published Invisible Man. If you ain't read Invisible Man, you should. And if you come talk to me, I'm going to reference Invisible Man at some point. And so that should be our common text, but or at least one of them. But like first chapter of Invisible Man, there's a scene where the narrator gets invited to this house under the sort of presumption that he's going to give a speech because he wants to get a college scholarship. And so he's got a speech prepared. He's dressed up. He's done everything that he needs to do. He's a young black man. We don't know his name. And we just know that he's like recently graduated from high school. He gets to the place preparing to give this speech, and somebody at the door puts a blindfold on him and then like has him go into a room. Like he sees a whole bunch of black men blindfolded with no shirt on. And like it's a whole bunch of like the wealthiest men.
Party? No, I'm sorry.
The wealthiest men in the city are sitting around smoking cigars, eating food, watching these black men fight each other with blindfolds on. And so what they're doing is like they've got these guys participating in what they call a battle royale. And in the battle royale, you don't even know who you're fighting against. You're just like being spun in circles and then thrown out into the middle of the thing so that you can fight against these unnamed people. What he also finds is that there's like money, there's like coins on the floor, and all amongst the muck and mire that might, like end up on the floor with people fighting, like having these like bare knuckle boxing matches happening. But like what he finds out is like trying to pick up the coins from the floor, like they're electrified, like they're attached to nodes that if you like try to pick it up, it'll shock you. Like you think that you might be able to like grab a coin, put it in your pocket or something like that. But like even that is a trick. And then he's like, I wonder if I could get any of these men to like sort of like take a fall. And then like I could split whatever it is with them, but we don't really have to be doing this, especially not for these white folk. But nobody really like is getting on the same page with him because they don't know him and they don't trust him. Everybody trying to win. It's like every man for himself, except that every man who is for himself has one thing in common, and that it's black men with their shirts off fighting in front of these white folks.
Like yo, so that's sort of the point, that was made about you have people commenting that has no knowledge of the culture, right? Like, so how can you even like cast a lot into who's winning or who won if you don't even understand what emceeing is?
This is very true. Like my question would be like, why would we subject ourselves to even being in that room and having those folks be able to arbitrate what's going on? Like that's one question that I would have. Now, I think that like there are any number of reasons why any of us might enter into that room for whatever we thought might be going on. I mean, this guy, he eventually wins, and then like they give him a briefcase, a leather briefcase after he gives this speech. But even when he's given the speech, like they try to correct him with intimidation to make him say what they want him to say rather than what he wants to say himself. So he doesn't even get to give the speech that he wants to give. So I wonder like how often we find ourselves drawn into versions of this battle royale, and also how often we participate in versions of the battle royale, like in our jobs, in our entertainment, in our everyday living, where we're fighting against folks who look like us, come from similar circumstances as us, because we believe in the promise of a couple coins here or there, or the ability to be able to work our way up, or like win some arbitrary prize like a briefcase. And so the specific context of the rap battle right now, like the thing that I noticed more, I think like probably like that was more interesting to me than who won, because like I also used to do rap battles, like that's a thing that, and like I'm gonna play the dozens. Like if we, like I meet folks up, we gonna do it, and we can go there. We definitely can go there. But what's going on when like that comes out, and then Spotify puts up billboards that say hip hop is a competitive sport? Because like here's the thing. I can look at that song, I can hear that song and be like, yeah, okay, that's interesting. I wonder who gonna say what. But like once Spotify and Rap Caviar jump into the chat, like it feels like they're erecting like the Coliseum so they can see a gladiator fight. And we know how that works. Or when Vogue, after Taylor Swift album comes out, like they're like, it's settled because of the Kim Kardashian and Taylor Swift joint. Like that 2024 is the year of the diss track. So like using the logics of like hip hop, like this thing that happens like sort of a family affair, a thing that's happening like inside the culture, in order to create clickbait or to make sure that people tune into whatever is going on Spotify. Like you might be like, well, AD, you making too big a deal out of nothing, because that's what these platforms are made to do. That's what they're supposed to do. And I would say, but like, I think that there's a kind of understood, like if y'all know like professional wrestling, there's a version of like the thing that I'm talking about with Ellison that happens in wrestling, like the battle royale. Like, but one thing that we understand about professional wrestling is like the whole K-pop thing. That is, everybody knows that it's fake. Even the audience is understanding that it's fake, but like we've all bought into the idea that we're going to pretend that it's real. And so these platforms, they have the ability to say, well, we thought it was all K-pop, but what we know, and we have metrics on this, what we know, I know The Economist even put a piece out about this, and I cited it on something that I wrote a little while back, that record companies or like the streaming platforms and the folks who create clickbait stand to gain whenever violence happens to any of the rappers that are involved in these things. So like when Spotify is putting up their, like when they're erecting the gates for the Coliseum, they can say it's fake whenever something bad happens, but they'll still make money off of it. They'll make money off of it no matter what the worst outcome might be. And then they also have the out of being able to say, we thought it was fake, but they know for a fact that they stand to gain off of it regardless of what the outcomes are. And actually they stand to gain more the farther the people go.
Farther they go. And it's also social media too, right? It's like social media has created that Coliseum analogy, as you mentioned, because you don't know what's AI. You don't know like what's clickbait. You don't know who's just fishing with their comments. And so that means to say that there's a kind of algorithmic logic that goes along with the thing that we see that we see happening, where these platforms stand to gain regardless and have no they feel no obligation, moral or otherwise, to the people who are going to be harmed. And the people who are harmed are not just the rappers that are rapping, but also the people who make the music or are affiliated in some way with the forms. And so like the stuff that we talked about last time that I was here about the sort of the projection of violence onto young Black bodies, young Black people, that projection of violence is actually being perpetuated when folks think they're innocently talking about beef in the context of Kim Kardashian, Taylor Swift, Sabrina Carpenter, and Olivia Rodrigo, because like where does the terminology even come from? So there's a promotional logic where Disney actors, actresses are using this in order to promote their albums. But the reason that they're using it to promote their albums is because of Black Death. It's literally because of Black Death, because of the way that it has been sold. And so if we don't look at that as part of what's going on right now as well, then sometimes I think that we're participating in this dangerous game that doesn't seem dangerous until it goes too far. And so like this is something that I'm looking at, like when Like That comes out, this is like 5 songs ago now. And this is before Chris Brown and Quavo. This is before the Vogue headline. And I'm looking and I'm just like, yo, like this feels like the Battle Royale joint all over again.
not because of what is happening right now, but because of what has happened. And if I ain't never said it to you before, I believe that, if history don't repeat, then it damn sure rhymes.
Thank you for that, man. So I think the next phase is kind of getting back to the origins of hip hop as we know it, right? And then you can kind of walk us into where we are now. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I tell you what, though, can we take a quick break?
Yeah, of course.
Take a quick break because we actually have somebody that joined in. Surprise! Let's see who we got on the line. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. What's the deal, family? How's everybody doing?
Go ahead and put your headphones on, Razor. You know who we got on the line, Razor?
Oh yeah. Yes. Saints and angels.
Saints and angels.
Hey.
Yeah, I remember all of it. Remy St. Clair. Remy, how you feeling today, brother?
I'm good. How are you?
Man, blessed, man. And I appreciate you conversating with us as well as Professor Carson. And I know you brothers have been two cornerstones that have tried to continue, preaching and laying platforms for good hip hop within our area, man. And for those that don't know as well, Remy, when we get back, I want you to sort of mention your reasoning for wanting to do things, right? Such as working with DJ AA1K back in the day, like when I first, right, started, when we first met, doing those open mics that leading into rugged arts and, so Verbs and Vibes in the 9 Pillars Hip Hop Festival. Like there was a reason, right, that you had a passion to do that. So, we definitely want to hear that from you. But does that sound good?
Yeah, we all good. Let's rock.
Yeah. So we're gonna take a quick break, fam. Gonna get back with Professor Carson. He's gonna bring us to the present, where modern day hip hop as we know it, and that the whole battle rhyme and diss records sort of bring us up to speed officially. And then we're gonna get some insight as well from brother Remy as well. So I am HO Talk Show family. Stay tuned. Don't want to miss it. Yes, indeed. Man, Sir Charles.
Miss Max.
Wait a minute in the corner. Razor.
Yeah.
And of course, back with popular man, Professor Carson. Now, our good brother, the one that taught Razor everything he knows about radio, Mr. Remy St. Clair. Did I get that right, Razor?
Yes.
So, but AD, where we left off at, man, I know you were saying that you didn't yet touch on the 70s. So I'm gonna go ahead and kick it back to you as we continue this discussion in the history of battling.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that before rap records were a thing, and folks were rocking shows, then we had the prevalence of folks who were trying to make sure that, again, like in these same kinds of traditions, like sort of to brag about oneself and like sort of do this sort of one-upsmanship kind of thing. And so I think that, initially.
Sorry, we're having a little
my bad.
difficulty, some feedback.
Oh, go
working
ahead.
on it.
Go ahead, continue. It wasn't that loud a minute ago, but go ahead.
Yeah, so
it's all the way down.
So you had folks who in the nascent years of people, or in the early years of people rapping, it was to support a DJ. And so like what you would be doing is kind of like bigging up whoever it is that is the DJ, like you're keeping the show going. And so you get into like some of this signifying, like saying, like these sayings that people know, like the roof is on fire. When I say, like, hey, you say, ho, like these kinds of things, like these, things that MCs would do was really to be a master of ceremonies, to move the crowd and keep them engaged in what was going on. And rapping then became a kind of like sort of toasting and signifying kind of thing. And people would talk about how their crew or their DJ or themselves were the best. And so then when other people would talk about themselves, then it would be in relationship to this kind of talking that like whoever the person on top at the moment might be saying about themselves. And so then you move to, like the distinct technology of records. Now, this is not this, at least what I'm saying now, skips over battling in person, because I think that the records are important. And then to say that the kind of thing that happens after the hip hop record is invented is that there's a way that you might be able to share the thing that is being said with a larger audience. They don't have to be there to see it happen. So they don't have to know, see you physically be the dopest MC. You can display yourself as the dopest MC and everybody can hear it. And so and this is where someone like Roxanne Shante comes in. UTFO releases a B-side to the song called Roxanne.
Yeah.
And, this leads to what folks, now call the Roxanne Wars, because this 14-year-old kid named Shante hears this and is like, you know what? I'm going to respond as if I'm the Roxanne that they're talking about. And so she deems herself Roxanne Shante.
Yeah.
And then and then responds in the record, I guess the analog is like the record kind of goes viral. Like everybody hears it because it's like, who's this young girl that came back at UTFO in this way? And so then this creates a whole lot of response records. There are people claiming to be the real Roxanne. UTFO responds because they're like, well, she can't talk about us like that, and so that whole thing leads to, or at least sets the stage for what we have going on now on records. This is not to say that didn't happen before. Even someone like the young Roxanne Shante, that we know now, would participate in those same kinds of things when they happen face to face. But having them on record is a very specific kind of technology that we have that also is an archive of that. And so you might be able to trace those back now because of the way they are archived, because they're recorded. And all of the other battles are just word of mouth. People are like, the story about somebody trying to rap like Rakim or try so hard to rap against Rakim that they jaw locked up or something. And again, these are also signifying stories. Folks are giving you the hyperbolic version of the thing because I don't know, I've seen some people do some extraordinary rap things. I ain't never seen nobody's jaw unhinged trying to rap.
Right.
But sound good though.
But we will tell a story. We will tell a story like that. And then people be like, yeah, man, his jaw broke. So that's kind of how we get into the 80s. And then, of course, we know, the more problematic 90s version of the thing, which I imagine also can't be separated from the corporatization of hip hop. That is mainstreaming of it, so that the thing that is happening is also happening in front of this, this large audience.
Yes,
where it's kind of like the Coliseum, and people are getting the highlights of the fight rather than knowing why the fight even exists. And so this logic of spectacular conflict as the means by which people promote things gets us also to this place where your favorite, Disney actors of yesteryear are now being described as having beef with one another. And, if you think about, you can look at what Mos Def said beef was when he was quoting Biggie, but in either case, when Biggie is talking about the thing that happens in the streets where folks actually have issues with one another, beef is when I see you, guaranteed to be in ICU, that kind of thing, or where Mos Def is talking about beef is when the kids ain't got food to eat, this kind of thing. Then I think that what you understand is absolutely not beef is the thing that Vogue and these other sort of PR folks are trying to do to make you believe that that's what's happening between Kim Kardashian and Taylor Swift. I just can't bring myself to believe that the same thing that Mos Def was rapping about is the thing that Taylor Swift is doing. No matter how folks want to squint at that to see it for whatever it is, it ain't that.
Yeah, then let me ask you this, and thank you for that synopsis as well, man. But it makes me think about rather even the art of boxing versus UFC, for instance.
Yeah,
which is some people can appreciate the art. Yeah. Right. Because there's an art behind boxing.
Yeah.
And, so I see this battle as the same as but some people just want to see somebody get laid the F out. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's kind of, you have those perspectives. Whether you respect the art or you want to see the drama.
But right? I think that, and I would say that the art that we're talking about is the trash talk before the fight.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And I think I should also say, I know I made an analogy to wrestling. That I should probably complete because the trash talk that's happening in wrestling that sells those fights. We can compare what rappers are doing, sort of the skill, the articulation, the deftness, the number of flows, like the entendres, the playback value, all of those things. There are rubrics by which we can judge what's going on to say like who did what better. But I think in this larger analogy, in the Coliseum analogy, and the Battle Royale analogy, I think that the rappers are not comparable to wrestlers. I think that the rappers are comparable to the chairs that like people slide into the ring, or the turnbuckle, or the ring itself, or the table on the side that like gets smashed. And the reason that I say that is because that's all equipment that people are using to sell the show. And absolutely nobody cares when that stuff gets destroyed, because it's literally there to be destroyed.
You better talk that talk.
Okay.
Right. And I think that that's what we should see whenever we're talking about this. Like the people who stay in the game, you're not in on the story that's being written. You're not in on the production of the story. You're not in on like who makes the feature or who comes in. Like you don't get no writing or EP credits on none of this. What you're getting is harmed, and somebody else is getting paid. So I think that if we look at it like that, like imagine all your favorite rappers being chairs that are lined up so that they can be thrown into a ring and used to smash somebody across the head. And those people who getting smashed across the head, they got health insurance, you know, like they get taken care of. Ain't nobody expecting anything more of that chair, because its only use was to be destroyed.
How valuable is that type of information for the spectators to be able to comprehend than it is for the wrestlers?
Yes.
Or the pieces of furniture and things like that
in
the Coliseum. Because ultimately, it don't matter if you and I know that, you know? We're not execs at Spotify, and we not the table and chairs.
Yes. Well, I mean, the thing is, we might say we ain't the table and chairs, but I would argue that like folks will try to treat us like those tables and chairs. I mean, like, you know, like when Michael Brown was killed and he was out there on that street in Ferguson for 3 hours. Like I would say that like I'm pretty sure that those folks treated him like a TV that didn't work correctly. And like because it didn't work correctly, nobody thought it was a crime to sit it out on a curb and wait for the people who pick up unsalvageable material to come and pick up. Even you got a politician now talking about how the dog didn't work and she shot it. Right? And folks are outraged over the dog getting shot, and not as much outrage is shown for a human body, a human life that was destroyed in the process of somebody saying, you got to do what I say when I tell you to. So I think that objectification of Black folks exists in this country, even when it's not like spectacle that folks are watching in the Coliseum kind of way. And that means that like a lot of these videos that we've watched of Black folks being killed, like they operate in the same register as snuff films. For entertainment, like we watch them and we're actually, you know, like sort of traumatized by them, and we have to live with what it means to see a life destroyed. And other folks are absolutely watching this the same way that they would watch Faces of Death, or that they would watch people like sort of shooting up bottles, like sitting up on a you know, like sort of like in a homemade shooting gallery. So I mean, you know, like respectfully believe that that objectification is happening to us all. It's just that people believe that rappers deserve it because they chose to be rappers. And so like there's this kind of subjectivity that rappers have where like they're seen as like differently human. And most of the time it's not like differently human as in superhuman, it's differently human as in subhuman.
And we do that with all celebrities though, don't we? It's like it's like if you make millions off of your craft, then you're a superhero by default, and we criticize you at levels we don't criticize other human beings.
I mean there's that's going on. And I think like language works to do it as well. Like, because, you know, we have to also like understand that like, you know, if it's happening to dudes, it's definitely happening to women, like probably to a more severe degree. And we just ain't talking about it. So like, imagine the number of times that you see something that happens to a 45-year-old woman and then they call her a cheerleader because she cheered when she was in high school. Right? Like, what's the work that's going on when folks are doing that, talking about like teen queen or teen beauty queen? It's like, hold on, but that woman was like in a pageant at some point when she was 13 years old. So what is the personhood that person is able to like sort of live in the moment? And I think that what they're doing in a lot of those ways is trying to connect what that person did at some point to like their humanness. And like that often works whenever they but like when it happens to somebody who is Black and like in otherwise embodied, then you know, it does a different kind of thing. So when I talk about rappers being described in the news, like usually when people say rapper, they automatically mean dude. And then when they talk about a rapper who is a woman or a non-binary person, then like what they do is very often in the headlines, they'll list the thing that happened to them, like in violent terms as like say that like this person died from alcohol or died from, you know, whatever. And it's usually trying to dehumanize the person still, or it works to dehumanize the person. I can't say what it's trying to do. I can say what it does when readers are looking at it though.
Right.
So
thank you. And let me,
we claim to be?
Hey, we got to get to Remy too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like woke. I mean, you know, like what Ellison says is that there are few things in the world as dangerous as sleepwalkers. And so, you know, I don't know if we woke, but I know that sleepwalking is dangerous.
It's kind of like a Harriet Tubman kind of inflection as well. Hey, but Remy, you there, brother?
Yeah, I'm here.
My man. So you know, so Professor Carson brought us up to speed, man. But what I wanted you to do was, being that this is on the Charlottesville airwaves and broadcasting to the world, like when you being one of the local pillars of what hip hop has meant when it comes to emceeing, when it comes to ciphers and providing that stage, just like share some of your passion about you know, behind providing those types of resources for the city of Charlottesville, the representation of hip hop.
Right. Well, first off, shout outs to the cast. You know, I love vibing with y'all. It's always an honor and a privilege to be on. And to my good brother AD, it's been a minute, my guy. You bet.
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. But the reason why I do what I do is because
well, Remy, I think we lost you. Oh man, you still connected here, but we don't hear you.
Where
Here we go. We got you now.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
cool,
audio
cool.
cut out. Yeah.
The reason why I do what I do is because I was brought up in a household where I was pretty much raised with the mindset of do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You know what I'm saying? Also one of those households where my granddad was in the military. He worked on tanks for a good majority of his career there, and I was brought up with a certain kind of discipline where if you see a problem, come up with a solution. Don't just sit there and complain about it. And that right there has been the backbone in everything that I do, rather than sit there and just point my finger about what we don't have or what we can't do. Provide those spaces and provide those platforms, and hope that you inspire others to do that as well, so that, you know what I'm saying, the story continues and we never lose steam.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So like when you looked at Charlottesville, right? And let's be totally honest about it, because this is people on the outside looking in a lot of times, right? They already fear hip hop culture a lot of times, like and what it represents, whether we looking at the pillars that may, you know, that graffiti is a part of, or whether the way we dress or whatnot. So when you looked at the young men and women in Charlottesville and you was like, they have this talent and we need to create spaces, right? And we need to provide these platforms for them to share this talent. Like talk a little bit about that, the importance of that, you know, in the face of people saying, oh, we know that that's going to bring drama. You know, like y'all gonna be in there fighting, stuff like that.
Yeah, I look at it like this: it's better out than in. If we could find ways to channel our anger and have that turn us into an entrepreneur, hence one of the pillars of hip hop. We take all our strife, all our grief, and we're able to capitalize off of it and not let someone else capitalize off of it. It's been a lot of that going on. Brother Carson touched on that. We let people profit off of us constantly. I'm waiting for that moment where we actually take hold of this culture, of this global influence that is ours, and rip it out of the hands of those individuals that are trying to act as though they are in control of it. And it starts locally.
Yeah.
You know, it starts right here at home. If we provide for our own, we build up our own, you know what I'm saying? And we hold the reins, if you will. And I think that's just something that's really gotten out of control in hip hop.
Got you. Thank you for that. And and as we bring this to a close, because we're up against the hour, gentlemen. But y'all know y'all always welcome. We're gonna have y'all back. But I wanted y'all to just share, real quick, your hopes, your dreams with hip hop, because y'all know the history of it. Y'all have been in it. But now when we see how the world is paying attention to hip hop right now, what do you hope comes out of this?
Oh, me?
Oh, both of y'all. Remember, you got anything to share, or you want AD to take it? As far as the world paying attention, what you want to come out of this?
I want everyone, since the world is paying attention, I want all participants, I want all artists, I want all MCs to pay attention as well. We got the world on watch right now. You know what I'm saying? Whatever we do is under a microscope. Let's make the best of this moment. Let's flip the script and turn this thing back to where it was.
Got you. Thank you for the AD.
Yeah. I think that. I mean, one of the things that I hold closely, which is something that is already happening, something that's already going on, and I think evidenced by this conversation that we're having here is that like the question about like, are we as woke as we believe we are, or just to, I mean, I believe in hip hop as process, not just product.
Okay.
And so that means that if we take the art and the artists and the histories that intersect to make us come together at this moment, if we take those seriously, then I think that it changes the way that we think about things, the way that we think through things, the way that we think with things. And so like a rap battle like this becomes a rap battle becomes a history lesson. It becomes a cautionary tale. It becomes a way for us to look at the archive of history that actually brings people in who we might not have been able to teach those things before. And so like for me, I truly believe that if we think with hip hop, if we take history or take hip hop seriously, we look at it as a way of thinking. And if we start to do that kind of thing, then like we don't have to change what the classrooms are doing, because the common texts that we have are within us. Like we already have them going all the way back to West Africa. Right. And so like this is not getting teachers to do it better. This is like actually making sure that the teachers understand the processes that go into the making of the thing that we're doing, rather than them pathologizing what we do and then calling us bad because of it.
Spot on, man.
Yeah.
Thank you as always.
Yes.
Thank you as always. So family, y'all definitely make sure you gotta spin back on this one.
Yeah.
Remy St. Clair, Professor A.D. Carson, breaking down hip hop, the history thereof, particularly around what the world is paying attention to right now. This record's flying back and forth. The art of battling, battle rap and battle rhyming. So until next time, Remy, be safe. Professor A.D., likewise, I'll always appreciate you, brothers, and let's be in touch and let's keep growing our culture.
Peace.
Celebrate.
Word, Godspeed.